Sie hören Sport und Musik.
Das Spiel ist aus! Deutschland ist Weltmeister!
In a world where fans fight over whether to call it football, or soccer, two German men defy the odds and call it Fußball. Bringing you inside the German-American football experience. And now, here are your hosts, the Schnitzel Boys.
Hello! Yeah! MLS is back! MLS is back!
Yeah!
Bing bong, bing bong. Apple TV coming at you. 1080p live stream. MLS is back this season, kicking off in late February. We got 29th team, St. Louis City, SC, coming at you, 29 teams. MLS is back, cause do.
I hated all of it.
No, you did not. Come on. I loved all of it for the most part.
All right.
I didn't love all of it.
Good for you.
Let's save. I know what you're talking about, obviously. I had a very similar experience. But there's so much to talk about. But before we get into specifics, first and foremost this was Apple TV's. We've heard about it for months.
Yeah.
We don't know, like, you work in television professionally.
I do.
I watch TV semi-professionally. And we were like, how are they gonna pull this big tech startup? And we don't know this. We just didn't know what's going on. And it was also crazy for them to rush this all together so fast, which they did. However, this weekend was finally the weekend where it all happened and it had all the games and blah, blah, blah. And we could be at Apple TV. And I think that's probably the main first story. I've got a couple other things I want to talk about. But overall, what are your impressions of the Apple TV experience with MLS?
I hated it.
Really?
I've been, listen, obviously, this was all colored by, my team played the very first game on Apple, and it was a pretty lackluster performance. And so that certainly colored the rest of my night. So I'm not going to say that I was an objective viewer. But I had a lot of questions about this. I mean, obviously it's the first week, it's all going to change. First of all, why are there all these, the first game is Nashville and NYCFC. Why are there all these Red Bull people? They started off with Sasha Kljestan and Bradley Wright Phillips. And then
that's it, right?
I mean, that's 2 out of 4 for the first.
I don't know, but that's just
I don't know,
no one's
nice
affiliated. No one's affiliated with clubs anymore. Just like, I know Bradley Wright Phillips is very much a Rebels player, but Sasha Kljestan was a Galaxy player.
Kljestan.
She was USA player. He played for a lot of clubs. And then
anyway, okay, so aside from my tribal situation, it felt a little hostile towards us. I don't know. It would have been nice to see a familiar face. It seemed like everybody. Joe Tollison actually was hosting this watch party that I was at Webster Hall in New York City. The club organized a watch party. So I went to that, and Joe Tollison was the host, and he seemed to imply that he wasn't offered anything. That this was not that he would have liked to be part of this. I mean, he didn't say this outright, but it was kind of his tone sort of seemed to suggest that, I guess they applied and were rejected, I suppose. So
that's very.
I don't know. It's all. It seems like it's all Red Bulls and Canadians that seems to be the
And Brits and some Brits. Yeah, I got a bunch
and
of
some
in
Brits
there.
thrown in.
Yeah.
The more this list expands, the less impressed I am. It sounded well. My main beef, if we're talking about the coverage, and if we're going to get past my tribal notions, what I really hated, because I went to this watch party, our game was early, and then I made my way. I had to make a quick stop at Trader Joe's just to reset after this terrible game. But then
I was going to tell people, can I pause real quick? So I'm texting during the game, and via text, I can clearly hear via his texting that Bjorn is pissed off and unhappy because of the game. And then he wrote me, he's like, I'm going to Trader Joe's, very defiantly. And in my head, I was just actually going to Trader Joe's so defiantly, being like, yeah, I need this. Look at that.
No. I
this.
mean,
I need to check out, but check me out later. I need to go home.
I did not rage eat after this, even though I wanted to. No, this was just I just had to reset. I just did my weekly, I go to Trader Joe's once a week to get groceries for my family. And this was just a spontaneous decision because I was the L train, if you want the details of my decision making here, the L train wasn't running. And so I was like, am I going to wait?
Often, by the way.
Yeah, on the weekends it does happen often. And so I was like, am I going to wait for the shuttle? Ugh. And then I said, I could take an Uber. But if I'm going to take an Uber, I could at least go to Trader Joe's and get my groceries Ubered home. And then I would feel like it would feel better. I would feel better about getting that done already and not having to go the next day and sort of justifying my Uber expense. So that's how I decided to go to Trader Joe's. And so I did. And it did make me feel better. Anyway, so then I got all the food home and I settled in on the couch for this much hyped whip around show, right? That was going to be the big thing of this new
MLS 360.
Like, honestly, let's just say here for a second, I know this is a big deal, but then who gives a shit? Like 1080p, the camera, like people don't care. People will watch, the game's the game. You want to see the broadcast. I mean, if it looks better, like it takes, I don't know. Do people really get that excited about image quality? I don't know. But anyway, the one thing that was genuinely a new thing is this whip around. You're going to have a show that covers everything and it's going to be exciting. And that was just, I mean, obviously it's week one. Even some of the hosts I saw on Twitter were saying, yeah, this is a work in progress, blah, blah, blah. So I don't want to be an asshole about it. But that was not what I hoped it would be at all. It was a talk show, basically. It's like the studio. I mean, the four people, Bradley Redfield, Sasha Kleston, Kaylin Kyle is her name. I think she's also one of the Canadians.
Was she the lady
in that pink that wild pink outfit? Yes, she looked like she was barely wearing pants. She had a cape on. I mean, fine, like that's what she's wearing. That's okay. She actually grew on me over the course of this. She seems like a fun person.
Well,
there was a lot of just throughout. I was like, there was just a lot of self-referential talk, like assuming that everybody knows who these people are. Which I know Kleston and Bright Phillips. I didn't know who she was. She's played for the Canadian national team. She's married to Adrian Heath's son. So I learned all these. I learned all these things about her, but I did not previously. I guess she was a sideline reporter for Inter Miami. I did not know who she was previously. And then there's the other host. I think he's also Canadian. I don't remember his name. So these four people were like really covering hours and hours, and they were not. And there was very little time spent whipping around. There was no whipping around in the whip around show. There was just, they were in the studio. Then Taylor Twellman shows up and gives a speech, and there's games going on, right? This is like, there's games happening all over the place. And then Taylor Twellman goes on about, this is such a big moment for it's like, it's a talk show. It's like these four, and there's like inside jokes. Christina Uncle comes in, and then Kaylin Kyle makes jokes about her being a ref while she was playing. I'm like, this is not attracting new fans. Nobody who's new to this wants to hear you yak it up with each other and being all chummy. I think this is the problem.
Can I interject real quick?
With US, let me just finish ranting and then
do it. Go on. Do it.
I think this is the problem, that it's this like incestuous pool of people and they all think they're like endlessly interesting and inside baseball. And it's like, just go from game to game. Like that's what the whip around thing is supposed to be. You don't have to talk, because also, sorry, and this is the last thing I said. Because these four people are talking to each other and bantering, they're not watching the game. So they're actually very ill qualified to say anything about it. So they're just like, oh, look what's happening here. Oh, wow, another goal. So yeah, this was very disappointing. And then eventually, well, anyway, you were going to interject. Please interject.
No, I mean, I have a lot of feelings. The big feeling is overall, I had a really great experience with Apple TV, but so just to say for the fans at home, we're on opposite sides of the coin. So we'll talk about that in a bit.
No,
however, but let's talk specifically MLS 360, the whip around show. I was watching the Red Bulls game live, so I couldn't see it. I didn't see much of it. However, I'm 100% with you. I thought A, would be a whip around show. B, like we've seen this before. The Bundesliga Conference had this for a long time, right? However, when that happens in the Galazzo show and stuff like that, like especially the Bundesliga, there's only 4 or 5 games going on at the same time. Here in MLS, I think there were 10 games going on at the same time, right? Something like that, a lot. So logistically, even that's complicated to whip around 10 games. Twice as many as 5. But I'm with you. I thought it would just be some VO guy being like, "There's a goal in St. Louis," and then cuts to St. Louis. You cut to St. Louis commentary,
and then you cut to the commentary, and maybe you have like 1 or 2 people maybe interjecting things. I think the Golasso show actually does a great job with that. I don't think you don't need that much.
I didn't get the 4-person, and also according to online, because I read a lot of reviews online, which are overwhelmingly positive, by the way, on Facebook and Reddit. Okay. But like, it seems like they sold ads. Were there commercials just in the middle?
Yeah,
there
were commercials also while games were going on. I also gave up on it. I think it's towards the end of because there was so much going on, and I was like, I'm not really seeing anything. I just hear these people talking. Right. And so then I made my own whip around, which a lot of people actually were complaining on Twitter today that it was hard to turn the scores off if you wanted to watch a replay.
Apple TV, settings.
You just got to fix the settings. But I thought it was actually useful that the scores were showing, so I could see. I could be like, oh, something happened there. I see. This score changed. Right. Go to that game, go back, scroll back a couple minutes, and then get so I was able to make my own, because that's the crazy thing. There was a lot going on. I mean, this is
there's 10 games at the same time.
This is just my, there was like this crazy DC Toronto. DC came back. Atlanta, Thiago Almada scored 2 bangers in stoppage time to come back while San Jose was leading. Philly was behind and came back. The Austin St. Louis game. There were a lot of crazy games. So it's like, you don't need, the product is good. Like, that's just the game. Let this thing speak for itself. You don't have to tell me Taylor Twellman is like close to tears. This is such a big moment. It's like, there's games going on. Like, fucking save that for later. Like, tell me later about that. This is not the talk show aspect while the stuff is going on. I think this could all be fine after the fact, but while there's games going on, you want to see the games. That's my take.
No, 100% agree with you. It's like I said, they're still figuring it out. I agree with you that I thought the whip around would just be a whip around.
Yeah, whip around.
The talk show could be a separate show they do later.
I haven't seen they do. They are doing they have done a wrap up thing.
Yeah, it's a 22-minute
which I haven't watched it. I
did.
Yeah. Is that also how does that work in terms of
commentary? No, it was great. It was talk show style, but they went through every game, saw the highlights
in 22 minutes. That's pretty efficient.
Yeah, I think they didn't do every game, maybe, because literally by minute 15 they were done. Then it went to Taylor Twellman talking about St. Louis SC for 7 minutes, and stuff like that. But
So
they
they
did
did
go,
it very, very
yeah.
short then. Yeah.
So in my opinion, yeah, it's a lot of start and stuff. Like I said, it's tech startup.
Yeah.
The best, like the Bundesliga sports show is the best extended highlight show there is. Like we're
It's
close
an
to it.
hour's worth of
Excellent. An hour and a half. And the way it is, like, and it's time for the Hoffenheim Dortmund game with your guy, Tony. What's his
and
face?
then they do like 4 to 7 minutes of
maybe even more, 10 to 15, really narrating the story every moment.
Yeah.
And they cut the score. It's cut, by the way, last week I called it a sports bug. It's called score bug. I got it right. Score bug.
Okay, right.
They get rid of the score bug, so you're just seeing the footage.
Yeah,
so,
it's
not sloppy.
It's just a narrative, and it's not
It's a
cut.
narrative.
It's not. It's also not. Yeah, exactly. It's not cut together. Commentary from the game. It's
seamless.
Actual somebody's narrating the whole thing over the. Yeah. That's true. That's great.
It's a very well done narrative piece of like a great way to experience a game in 10 to 15 minutes if you miss the 90 minutes. It's the best way to do it.
Yeah, that's I mean that's a pretty high, they have a long tradition, and then on the other end, if you want to stick with the German model, and then you have Sportstudio, which is later in the day, which sort of is more selective about the highlights, and then there's a talk show aspect. There's guests, and you sort of analyze it more, and you talk a little bit more about it in depth. And I think that's cool. It's just, if you're whipping around, you got to whip around. I am also not, just to say that also, I'm not anti this Apple TV thing. I've been like getting lost in all the content. I have favorites of these like classic. I mean, the classic MLS footage is it can get pretty addictive. Like it's a little bit, it's because it's almost like 80s sci-fi TV or something. It's like,
right.
Oh, it looks like it looks like real people, but it's like so weird and different. So it's like, yeah, this is the game I like, but it's so, yeah. So there's like the Nick Raimondo highlight reel. It's fucking sick.
Right.
Taylor Twellman telling about his bicycle kick. There's a lot of good stuff. Yeah, the image quality is good. The graphics are good. I thought the commentators all seem pretty generic to me. I haven't really.
You mean now or then?
Now, like, yeah, I did not. I was as I was doing my own personal whip around show.
Right.
I wasn't impressed. I wasn't that impressed with a lot of what I heard, but I mean, I was mad, so there's that. I'll give it another. But I'm not. I mean, I think this is going to be great. I'm not like a naysayer here at all. I just thought this MLS 360 thing was a total bust in week 1. My opinion.
I didn't see MLS 360 because I was watching the game. But no, from what I understand, yeah, you're right. That needs to be changed a little bit, and I'm sure they will, because I think that's
I mean, everybody, right,
yeah.
And this is why I don't want to. I was also mad because we lost. So otherwise, I would have probably been more generous.
I also went back and forth between Apple and Fox to watch the Fox.
Interesting. Okay.
And you know what's funny? The Fox, the Nashville NYCFC game, like my Fox was glitching. It wouldn't let me log in, so I had to watch it on Apple TV. And I was just
Did they have separate? Did they have separate?
Totally separate, totally unrelated. The Fox feed didn't have any of the graphics. It was just the raw feed. They had their own Fox Sports branding, and they had John Strong and Stu Holden doing the play-by-play. Whereas the Apple TV was the Apple TV branding, and they had
Mo Edu and
Keith Costigan and Mo Edu, which is hilarious because that last year was a Fox Sports duo.
Right. I was going to say, did they just keep the right?
Kept the duo. The picture quality. I know you said no one cares. I care. Like I'm the
no. It's good. It's good, but like no,
Apple TV is crisp and clean. The Fox broadcast, which used to be the clearest broadcast, is clearly compressed compared to the one on Apple. Like it was blurrier. You didn't see the names as clear. Like the Apple TV picture is crisper, and so that I'm already excited about. I love that. That's already a big plus for me.
No, for sure. I'm not poo-pooing that at all, especially being in the business. Of course, it makes a difference. And the whole presentation is good. I think the graphics are great. Everything is good. It's just, but then MLS gonna MLS, right? So you still have this like super meta, self-referential. We're the underdogs. Like people just have to kind of keep talking about how far the league has come. It's like let your thing just speak for itself. It's fine. It's good. There's a lot of exciting
going on.
A lot of exciting games. There's a lot going on. You don't have to hype it. You don't have to tell me how much better it is than it used to be. Let it just speak for itself. And specifically, stop talking about Thiago Almada, the World Cup champion. Like it's I've said this before. It's like it has the opposite effect. He barely played in this tournament.
I mean, he got a
medal. This is not again, does not serve to impress me about your league. If you keep telling me that this guy I've never heard of who barely, I mean, if I'm not me, this imaginary new viewer who is like, this MLS I want to get into. I don't like if people all act
Hold on now. That might be hold on now. If this is a new American fan, something else I've been loving, by the way, I'll get to that in a second, who doesn't know much, but if he's watching American soccer and the play-by-play guys getting like he just won the World Cup with Argentina, like you and I know he sat on the bench. But for like a new neutral, that's exciting. That's like a little bit of legitimacy.
I'm imagining the Euro snob, my Euro snobby.
Yeah, but what are they gonna?
Who are like
he won the World Cup?
What he didn't play. He didn't play.
Yeah, but he won.
Final.
He's a World Cup winner. Jamil Musiala wasn't a World Cup winner the last 2 months ago. So I see what you're saying, but I think depending on the fan, there's a different. For the Euro snob, maybe it's more contention for criticism. You're right, but for the new American fan, it's a point of pride. It's a point of interest. So maybe it goes. Right. There's two different effects.
Okay.
Well, but with that, anyway, I'm all over the place here. So Fox, Apple, blah blah blah. I was a kid in a candy store. I loved all the Fox stuff. I know it was a little twitchy. The whole MLS story thing. That's a clue to something I want to touch on again later. So remind me about MLS state-run media. I want to go on a little rant about that again later. And then the Christina Uncle thing on MLS 360. I'd love to talk about that also for a little bit. We'll save that segment for a second.
Okay.
But yeah, the play-by-play guys overall were very generic. I went on FS1 to watch. By the way, there's a soccer game going on right now, by the way. Portland Timbers is playing right now.
The Timbers. Yeah.
Because of the postponement, which I'm talking about that too, another topic thing. But anyway, I did realize that a large amount.
They had snow.
Well, I was supposed to be at the LA Galaxy game yesterday. I got postponed.
Yeah, they had torrential rain. July 4th. All right, sorry. Keep going.
Right. I mean, we didn't talk about that.
I got it. I got my rant out of my system. I feel much more accepting and good about the world now.
All right, good. What was I even talking about? Let's see.
I don't know. You told me all the things that you were going to talk about later.
Watching the game.
MLS 360.
Apple TV is what I'm talking about. I realized that a lot of the talent that I liked in that little list we made didn't make it to Apple TV. Because Joe Tollison and Joe and Ian I liked. And I thought to myself, they turned it down. But if you're implying that Joe wasn't accepted, that's crazy to me.
This is really
hold on.
This is just a vibe I got. I can't report this as fact.
I'm about to come to a conclusion.
Okay.
So Neil Sika, Jordan Angelini, same thing. They're not there. Joe Tatino, same thing. He's not there. Your boy Tony Miola was on the Fox Sports broadcast. He was not on the Apple broadcast because he's not part of the Apple team. So a lot of these
at some point his name mentioned.
No. Okay. He's a Fox Sports guy.
Yeah, and meanwhile we have Shep Messing and Steve Cangelosi and a
Lloyd
lot
Sam and Bradley Wright Phillips.
I don't have a problem with Lloyd Sam. I mean, another Red Bull. I thought I historically have liked Mo Edu, I have to say, when he was on Fox, but he seemed very Captain Obvious to me in this particular game. Like there was just a lot of like, well, only one goal behind. If they score now, then it's tied. It's like, oh, thank you, Mo, for this. Yeah, I guess that's
But my theory is because Apple, I mean, I could be wrong. The recruiting was, I assume they all turned it down, but literally, if they were never offered and this was literally their recruiting and they got first dibs of picks, then that's very poor. Because there are a couple play-by-play guys. But my theory is that because they invest a lot of money into this, but they're hedging their bets. My theory is they kept this as budget conscious as possible. I think they hired maybe like 3 or 4 guys they give a real salary to, like a Max Brados, like a Moadu, like a Taylor Twellman, like they gave them real salaries. But I think for everybody else, they gave them pretty like starter salaries and kept it cheap. So for someone like Joe, they probably couldn't afford him. For someone like JP Della Camera, they couldn't afford him. Maybe, the other theory is some people didn't want to travel. I don't 100% know if all of these guys are in New York or where, because it's all done from a studio. It's not done at the stadium. It's a studio, but I don't know if they're all in the same studio or what that deal is. If everyone had to move to New York, so that already, like someone like Joe Totino probably doesn't want to move to New York. Again, I don't know why that would.
Yeah, I don't know.
The overall selection is a little odd, and you're right. A lot of the commentary is very meh. Did you know, Bjorn, that the social media manager of the Schnitzel Boys tweeted at one of the commentary guys, criticizing him, and he got tweeted back, and we back and forth for a little bit. Did you know that?
I did not know that. No. I do follow Twitter. Well, anyway, Twitter's also been weird.
What do you mean, since Elon Musk bought it? Or just in general?
Well, lately it's just like, anyway, I don't want to go on another rant here for something that is completely on. But anyway, I missed it. And I don't think it's my fault. I think it's Twitter's fault that I missed it. That's what I'm saying.
Missed what?
Your exchange with
Tony Husband, the play-by-play.
Talk to me.
Okay, so throughout the game, St. Louis SC versus Austin FC, one of the better games of the weekend. Great game.
Bochum legend Edward Löwen is going to rule MLS apparently.
So in the beginning of the game, and I didn't see the whole game because it's 20 game all over the place. But on more than one occasion, Tony Husband, the play-by-play commentary, who I like, kept saying, "There's Roman Bürki, the great German goalkeeper. The German goalkeeper, Roman Bürki. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Roman Bürki. He's the captain. He's German, ladies and gentlemen." He said it over and over again. So I tweeted at him. I'm like, "Hey, Tony, great stuff, but just heads up, he's Swiss. He's not German. That's a Swiss goalkeeper." And then he wrote back, he'd be like, "Yes, I pointed that out in the second half." Very defensively to me. And I wrote back, like, "Yeah, okay, good stuff, man." But am I wrong in him being like, he should have admitted he should have known before the game that he was Swiss as opposed to a German goalkeeper? Am I wrong? Yeah. I didn't. It was a very cordial exchange, but he was quite defensive, I'll say. I think a better tweet would have been like, "You're right, I did get it wrong. Someone told me I got it right in the second half, but thanks for letting me know." Like that would have been a better, I think, response.
They're a confident bunch. These commentator types, they have to be, I guess.
Well, I'm just surprised at that lack of knowledge. So that game was great. The other thing about that game. God, there's so much to talk about. I also want to talk about other commentary in a second, but that St. Louis SC got a tie from one of the worst defensive gaffes probably in MLS history from a young player named Kip Keller, who's a defender for Austin FC. Did you see the highlights to this? Did you see this recap?
Oh yeah, and there was a controversy. Well, can
you do me a favor? And it's probably the right controversy. Can you go on Wikipedia and type in Kip Keller and tell me where he was born and raised and where he went to college?
He's from St. Louis,
and he was born and raised in St. Louis, and he was a proud St. Louis.
This was your well. There's two conspiracy.
What's the other
theories.
Conspiracy?
Well, the other conspiracy, you're saying he's from St. Louis and he did this on purpose.
He gave him a wink, nod. He gave him like, "I'm going to help you guys out."
No, the other theory was that because Jared Strout was on Austin FC last season, and they were both not starters, and so they trained a lot together with the second unit, and there was some speculation that Jared Strout had called for the ball, and Kip Keller was briefly confused as to whether or not they were on the same team.
More power to Jared Stroud then. You should be able
And
to.
that
perfectly-
and there was that question: did he actually call for? Did he actually try to trick him, or was this just a brain fart on Keller's part?
I think it's a brain fart on Keller's part, no matter how you look at it.
Of course, but like,
yeah.
I guess clearly he thought that they were on the same team for that split second.
I think Kip Keller wanted to be on the same team, and that team is
because he was
City
born
SC.
in St. Louis, and so he was, after coming off the bench and not getting a lot of time, he was ready to piss it all away for sentimental reasons.
But St. Louis with Klaus, the Brazilian, and with Löwen, and with that great German goalkeeper, according to Tony Osmond, Roman Berkey, they got themselves a last 20-minute 2-goal salvo, and they won 3-2. Great game, good opening victory for St. Louis. Next week in St. Louis, going to be a crazy game.
And so far, confirming my theory that Austin's going to regress a little bit.
But confirming my theory of St. Louis getting in 6th place, maybe. However, so that's that. Going to commentary. So commentary wasn't perfect, right? With my own thing. So now it's time for my rant, okay? Right. I watched the New York Red Bulls play the Orlando City SC. That was my opening game for my Red Bulls, okay? Mm-hmm. Dante Van Zier is still not with the team. Gerhard Struber is going to give him a couple weeks. So it's still our team from last year. And we had quite a few injuries. Kyle Duncan was unavailable. One or two other key figures were unavailable. Let's have to look it up. But 3 of our starters were out, and including Dante, that picks 4 of our starters out. Anywho, we were doing our Red Bull thing. And we were doing a Red Bull thing, high press, chaos ball. We were pretty dominant for the first 60 minutes of that game. But then there was this handball call in the box off, is it Tom Barlow? Escapes me exactly who was off of. Oh, I think Sean Nealis. No, it was off our new team captain, Sean Nealis, our Aaron Long replacement. It goes up, hits his body, then hits his inner arm right here. That bounces away. And then they called that a penalty. However, the analyst on the broadcast, whose name escapes me at the moment, was like, that's not a penalty. If it bounces off the body, it's not a penalty.
That's what I thought it was. Yeah, I thought that too.
Most people agreed. And on Reddit, people were like, that's not a penalty. And then a few minutes after it was all done and the penalty was scored, the analyst is like, you know what? We had a meeting with Mark Geiger before the season, and Mark Geiger mentioned there's going to be an adaptation of that rule, and that was a penalty because of that adaptation. And that's all he said. And he left it at that. And I was like, oh, gee whiz. Hey, bud, what's the adaptation? Okay. That's A. B, isn't there a rules analyst on call? And C, as a game analyst, shouldn't you be a rules analyst? They're not volunteers. Shouldn't our analysts know more about the rules than they do, in my opinion? Like, that's A. So, God, all over the place. B, I hear on MLS 360 that Christina Uncle comes on. I can't find this footage anywhere, by the way. And she says that should not have been a penalty. She's the rules analyst. She says everybody else thinks that that's not a penalty. So on Reddit, we're talking about how Christina Uncle and Mark Guy, they disagree over that rule. And I'm sitting here thinking, shouldn't that be discussed on the broadcast and or on the show? And if there is a change in the rule, if 2 professional referees are both disagreeing over a handball call, shouldn't Mark Geiger and Pro have some sort of workshop at the beginning of the season where he explains all his rule adaptations to everybody? Can't we as fans see that? Can't the analysts at least get a little bit of a workshop training from, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't understand why it's so foggy. I want it clarified.
Well, the handball rule is currently a mystery to all. Like, there's very few people who really fully understand.
But that's on Mark. Like, if Mark Geiger wants to do this new adaptation,
I mean, this is in the Premier League, Bundesliga. This is not an MLS thing. This is a worldwide thing. The handball rule has been recently
MLS thing.
Clarified repeatedly, and nobody understands it anymore. But
No, I get it, but however, it is an MLS thing because Mark Geiger is president of Pro, and he made a decision. He made a decision,
and he's got to tell us. Yeah,
his job is at the beginning of the season to send out a video and a press release to be like, "Hey guys, here are some examples. This is what a handball is going to look like in MLS. If it doesn't look like that in the World Cup or the Bundesliga, something I can do about that." Now, that's also another thing. It should look the same. So do you understand what I'm saying? That made me furious.
Yeah.
It's like on the broadcast, have Christina Unkel. Where is she? Why can't she come on the broadcast and explain? Why is she in Studio 360?
Because she's yakking it up with the 360 people.
Why?
Because that's what they're doing. Yeah, no.
Why isn't she on the broadcasts offering rules? You know what I'm saying? Like why?
These are all good ideas. I'm sure there's gonna be more of that happening.
And on top of that, the game analyst should know the rule. Like a part of being, they're not volunteers; they get paid. Part of being a game analyst is they should read the FIFA rule book every year and have a crystal clear understanding of the rules and explain it to the audience.
Don't get me started on that. I have that gripe when I watch Premier League broadcasts all the time. When you have these ex-players who are like, well, you know, like it's sort of a point of pride for a lot of people to be like, well, I don't understand this shit. And I agree with you. It's not, it's knowable. These things are knowable. And if that's your job, you should just know it and explain it.
MLS, Apple TV, do better on that. When there's questionable calls, have people available or trainer analysts so they can exactly explain what's going on and offer like the fact that all they said was Mark Geiger offered an adaptation and left it at that. It's like, yo, what's the adaptation? You're leaving me hanging here. We're about to lose this game over this crap, which we did. The game ended up 1-0. A very sloppy, in my opinion, not a penalty. Because what's he supposed to do? Cut his arm off? It goes off his body into his arm.
I thought if it comes off your body first, that's automatically not so that is confusing. So it
should be. I think it's just a bad call.
I need to educate myself to see if there's something happened or if this is just a bad call. Well, then we had this thing with NYCFC where you were texting me.
Yeah, that was a handball that was told off.
But and Christina Unkel said that was all good to go because he wasn't making himself bigger. He was just basically shielding himself from. So that was a different situation.
Behind his hand is his body, so it's like
right. So it wasn't going. It's not like he made it. It's not like he did this and made himself bigger. It wasn't. Not like we needed also a fucking penalty. Anyway. Called against us. It was bad enough as it was.
Okay, so those are some great. Like overall, let's summarize here. We both had bad opening games. Apple TV, in my opinion,
if NYCFC had won or tied, I would have felt 30% better about Apple TV.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Anyway, I don't know. NYCFC is clearly in a slash and burn rebuilds. I mean, they got rid of all their players.
Not though. That's the thing. It's not. That was we put out a good lineup. It was just. There were some individual, like some people played poorly. Keaton Parks had a poor game, and I'm not one to say that lightly. I'm one of his biggest fans, but he was not good. Alfredo Morales was, I guess, a little hurt. He didn't play. Tylis is not a 9. That experiment, I guess, lasted 1 half, and then they moved him back to the wing and put Thiago. It's fine. I am not. It's a transitional period. More people will come. This is not the complete roster. I'm not. I'm trying to be patient. It was just one of those games where it was like, what is happening? It wasn't even like, oh, we are just outclassed or we don't have the manpower or like, it's like, oh no, we're just bad today. There was just a lack of. It was just one of those. It's not even like, oh, we can't compete or. And then also the whole, I don't know, I haven't seen a lot of Nashville. Hani
Mukhtar's goal was he's MLS Messi. He's MLS Messi.
Pellegrini's got to take the yellow. No, he's like basically walking past and doing this. It's like foul him, man. You're right.
He ran through 4 guys.
Take the yellow. Take the yellow and this doesn't happen. I mean, I even said this to my friend I was like, this sets up perfectly for the Hani Mukhtar counterattack goal, and he got the counterattack assist. But I mean, it was just
So to be
poor
clear, no credit to
execution.
Nashville. I just want to make sure Bjorn Schnitzel, no credit to Nashville. NYCFC lost that game. Nashville didn't win that game. Is that what I'm hearing from Bjorn
I mean, I guess,
Schnitzel?
I'm not. I mean, that's like 6 and 1, half dozen the other. That's like a subtle.
Is that Walker
I
Zimmerman's
think.
goal?
I think so. I think they gave it to him. I don't know. It looked
I
like
know.
Godoy put it over the. I mean, that was also, the counterattack. I don't know. We just didn't generate a whole lot. I mean, they deserved to win the game. I'm not saying that. No offense to. I was also irritated with their whole like shtick, the whole like guitar thing. Like then they're celebrating the goal. They have a jersey with Johnny Cash's autograph on the back. What does Johnny Cash have to do with anything? Like,
he's one of those cool jerseys from that area. He's a Nashville country star. His son and daughter played. That was his son playing on the.
so
thing.
we should have like Frank Sinatra's autograph on our.
Are you the Las Vegas
jersey?
team? Are you
No,
the Las Vegas
New
team?
York, right? Isn't he? He's from New York.
No one's from New York. But you're just being mad. Come on now. Nashville's got great shtick. We should have gotten our Nashville brother Brian Baker on here to go at each other.
All right. Well,
We have a lot to talk about, by the way. So it was 2-0. I felt.
So you're saying I should snap out of
Yes,
it and stop
yes.
whining about my shitty performance of my team? All right.
It was a fun game for neutral. It was a good opener. They did a really bad job recording the music. I mentioned that in like another Apple TV snafu was like they kept showing them playing, but they had no microphone there. So that was a small thing. Part of these little things to figure out. However, overall, I felt the audio mix of these games, it could be crazy. They promised they were going to mix them differently. Felt really good. That was another sort of plus for Apple TV. A lot of games was a generic roar from the crowd. It sounded very good. In the old days, they just put some stupid microphone out there, and there was one guy and a drummer next to the mic, and you just heard him the whole time. And he's just like, "This sucks," and bing bong. That's all you heard, and it was terrible. They mixed it up to have a more generic sound, general crowd sound, and I could tell. And it was lovely.
Yeah, I didn't have an opinion about that. I was at this watch party at Webster Hall.
Right.
It's hard to know. I thought the picture quality was very good. They had a great projector at Webster Hall. I was very impressed with how good that projector was. I thought one camera was a little oversaturated compared to the other ones, but
the side camera,
whatever. I mean, whatever. They'll figure that stuff out.
Right. Okay, so I felt a little better about my opening game. We lost. But again, our one-star player is supposed to fix all the problems, still hasn't been integrated yet, so I haven't seen him yet. Overall, we're still in good shape. Like I said, it was a crappy call. We had the ball in Orlando way more than they did. So it was a disappointing loss. We still don't have a goal. We have to wait for next week. But overall, I'm pretty okay with our opener. Like we're in good shape. Like I said, when Dante integrates, when Corey Burke integrates a little bit better, I think when the other players get healthier, I think we're on for another pretty solid season moving forward. So that's the Red Bull Orlando game. Let's hop around a couple other scores real quick. Philly back to the winning ways, 4-1 over Columbus. Cincy 2-1 over Houston. That's Orlando. New England.
That was also late. That was a pretty late turnaround too. The Cincinnati game. There was a lot of
late winners. The big one.
The DC United Toronto game was nuts.
3-2. Give it up for Wayne Rooney, man. He did it. Christian Benteke scored a goal. Christian Benteke scored a goal.
He did.
Inter Miami got a 2-0. Minnesota beat Dallas 1-0. Very disappointing for Dallas.
Also a surprise, yeah.
St. Louis Austin game, crazy 3-2 with that turnaround we talked about, and Real Salt Lake beating Vancouver. But the big super duper big matchup was Atlanta United versus San Jose. I think in a packed Atlanta arena there, San Jose with Jeremy Abobasi, who you invoked last week, getting his goal, and then in stoppage time, World Cup
Cup winner.
Without him, Argentina would have never had a chance at the World Cup.
Messi who? It's all Thiago Almada won the World Cup all by himself.
Thiago Almada. He got 2 really great last-minute goals in stoppage time. God, it must have been pandemonium if you were there.
Yeah.
Great late 2-1 turnaround for Atlanta United.
San Jose goalie looking quite poor on both of those.
Yeah, absolutely. But really, really, really fun game. And then last night, Seattle Sounders just destroyed the Colorado Rapids for nothing.
Haber got the start.
Haber
Haber
looking
got the
good.
start.
Yeah.
Scored a goal.
Yeah, he's looking really good. She never got rid of him. And then Portland leading Sporting Kansas City 1-0 at the half right now.
It's halftime. 43
Ish,
minutes. There are
or
43
close.
minutes here. What I'm watching. Maybe I'm behind.
It'll be halftime. Anyway, early going Portland. So those were the scores. Okay, so many things to talk about.
All right.
I don't even know where to begin. Let's talk.
Well, you told me two things to remind you of, but you go ahead.
No, I forgot.
Well, you wanted to talk about Christina Uncle, and you wanted to talk about the state-run MLS media.
So Christina Uncle is what talked about that penalty thing.
Oh, okay. So that's already covered.
And also, if she's on MLS 360, like I want to see that clip. Where is it? Is it on Apple TV? I want to see that.
You can't see replays of MLS 360?
Nope. No, you cannot.
Is that true?
Yep. Yeah, we're talking about go on Apple
right.
TV and find the clip for me. It's not there. They did not replay MLS 360. You can watch a replay of the MLS Wrap. It's that Wrap show, which I thought was fine, and you can watch a replay of all the games. I also learned that highlights will not be available on YouTube until like way later. All highlights will stay in Apple and Facebook only, and then make their way on YouTube.
What
later.
about the MLS website?
Go on it right now. Still? Oh yeah, it's probably go on the MLS website right now. I don't think so. I think all I know is that usually
the NYCFC website had highlights of the game. Like they usually do.
Is it on YouTube? I mean, the websites will have it. I used to go on YouTube.
Yeah, 7 minutes. 7 minutes of highlights on the MLS website.
Is it on YouTube?
Of Nashville, New York City.
I don't think it's on
YouTube. Oh, I've never watched them on YouTube. I watched them on the MLS app.
I always watch them on YouTube because they're all on YouTube. It's not that big of a deal, but just let you know, if you used to watch highlights on YouTube, you have to change your habits and watch them on the app or on the Apple.
Well,
app.
Because YouTube is a Google company.
Probably.
I think there's a little bit of that, right? Like for sure.
Yeah, they're specifically deprioritizing YouTube for their highlights. That's what I don't know if it was a press release or if it was on Instagram or it was on Twitter or something, but that was the official statement. And so there's that. Overall, I had a great time with the app, though. If
I very much enjoyed my personal whip around too. Actually,
yeah,
it was very
exciting. If you hold watch, recap, or something, you have three options: full length in English, full length in Spanish, or a 7-minute recap. These are the kind of quirks and things you learn with the app. The other people online were arguing on whether there's all the freaking people about how much they hate Apple TV and blah blah blah. And I'm like, I just don't care at this point. People are assuming that next season we're going to have 1 million new fans tune into ESPN Plus all of a sudden. I did some math, Bjorn.
Oh, boy.
Taking the average attendance of MLS weekend, which I did. I took all the average attendances and I added them up. It came out to around 500,000, 550,000 fans a week watching MLS live at the 29 clubs at the 15 different stadiums. And the average TV viewership of an MLS game was 280,000 viewers. That means that in this league of ours that we love so much, twice as many people watch it live than they do on television.
But that's one game, you said.
That's average game of the week.
But that's apples and oranges. You're combining all.
Are you
the
saying if we add them all together? I guess you're right. I guess my math was a little off there.
Well, I mean, your point is well taken. The TV audience is tiny.
Essentially, one game gets half the audience of actual people going to the games in general, which is a weird. Like no other American major league probably has.
I had this discussion. I think I've said this before. I had this discussion with my son. A lot of people are just very casual fans. Also, we were looking around once, and it was like there were like 30,000 people in the stadium, and I was like, "What percentage do you think of the people here watch away games on TV?" And he said, maybe 20%. And I said, yeah, that sounds about right. It probably would take the under though, even.
Yeah, I agree.
Like
how many people in this stadium know the names of the players? You know what I mean?
Right. Or like, yeah, it's just even when you compare these numbers, it's still a little bit apples to oranges. Like people are just are much more casual followers of the game. But I do think that just Apple's ubiquitousness will have an impact, and they're going to promote the stuff, and it's gonna have an impact. I think, but I think also your point is taken that the audience was so small, they really had nothing to lose. Like
right. The people that are complaining, it's like, oh, was it supposed to be a rush of 1 million new fans this season? All of a sudden, Apple TV is a good home. I'm a kid in a candy store. They're a good broadcast partner. And on top of that, on Facebook, someone on the boards, or Matt, someone said, "Hi, I'm a brand new fan to soccer. I'm a T-Mobile customer. They gave me the pass for free.
Oh yeah,
so I figured, why not? I watched the game and I love it. Tell me more about the sport. Tell me about, you know what I mean?" And I replied to him. I was like, "Hey, hallelujah. You're such a sweet dude. I love it. I love the new soccer fandom."
Yeah, that's true. The T-Mobile thing. Yeah, I mean, these people will get access to this. All these games are free this weekend. They're going to have, I think, 40% of all games will be
in front of
free
the paywall all season.
Throughout the season. So this stuff will be available. So it's
and
not
like I said,
it's not like it's going to be pay-per-view only for a select few. No, it's going to be out there, and
it might have the reverse effect. This might be the opposite. We might now get more fans because of Apple. Like ESPN never advertised. ESPN never got us fans, and the people are complaining it's going to Apple that they said we're going to get rid of fans. I actually argue. I think it might do the opposite effect. I think because of Apple's excitement. I think
it's also it's a little bit of it's also different depending on the team. Some local broadcasts were very available. They were like on free TV. So in certain markets, that there may be some truth to that, where they're going to lose some viewers because the local broadcasts were so available. In here in New York, it was not the case. Like the Yes Network is a pretty high, pretty deep cut in the cable tier. You have to have a special sports package usually to get that. So, I mean, these Yes broadcasts had really, really small numbers. So,
if you're like me, if you're under 40, you haven't had cable in years. I used to watch New York Red Bulls off illegal streams almost exclusively. If they weren't on national TV, I had to catch some sort of illegal stream. And then when I moved to LA, I realized how much easier it was to watch the teams because there's no blackouts.
Because you can get ESPN Plus, right?
Because I got ESPN Plus. And now there's no blackouts. I'm a kid in the candy store. I'm like, hallelujah.
Right, Red Bull's the same. They're on MSG. That's also It's not you have to get the cable.
I looked into it. I'm like, can I just get MSG Go separately for $5 a month?
No,
it's like, no.
It's not a thing.
Part of it.
I mean, that's the thing. Yeah, that's why I still have the cable package, because it's harder to assemble it elsewhere. And I'm also older, and I work in TV. I feel like I have to have it. I don't know. Anyway,
that's one of the many reasons that we're a good co-hosting pair, because I represent the young millennial,
and I'm the old fucks out there.
You're the Generation Y or
Generation X. No, Generation X. Thank you very much.
Gen X.
I completely identify with that label.
We need a Gen Z co-host now. Maybe your son can hop on.
What are you?
I'm millennial. I'm a millennial. Yeah. And we're not young, by the way. Millennials are in their mid to late 30s.
Yeah, millennials.
Gen Z are the young teenagers and the 20-year-olds. So anyway,
I'm old by any measure.
No, you're not. Gen X is still hip. Well, remember the Pepsi? What was it? The Pepsi, the Gen X generation? Mm-hmm. Or was it Coke? Was it Pepsi? That stuff was hip, man. That was hip.
Yeah, we've had our, we had our day, and we're whatever. I'm not.
There's no boomers. So we need to get a boomer.
Boomers are the worst.
Yeah, we need to get a Gen Z to boomer. The boomer special. Boomer Esiason. Okay. Anywho. So
is that it? That's it? No. You got one more. All right.
I would argue the most important topic. So the great Phil Neville was interviewed by The Athletic a few days ago.
Oh, this sucks. All right, go for it.
This was the MLS state-run media criticism, which I bring up all the time. MLS 360, right? You got freaking Andrew Levy and David Goss being like, "Isn't this crazy? This is the best." Are we, like freaking North Korea YouTube state-run media nonsense, like a cult. Meanwhile, The Athletic, which I'm going to say a statement, The Athletic offers the best MLS journalistic coverage there is. Right? Or am I wrong? The Athletic offers the best.
It's a low bar. Who are the other contenders? Yes, yeah,
Bingo,
I would say yes.
Right?
Yeah,
like what? Every now and then, New York Times gets an article. Sports Illustrated has like one guy. It's
New York
Brian
Times
Strauss
about MLS. Never. Almost
Jack
never.
Wall. What was his name? Anyway, but yeah, like Stephen Goff of the Washington Post. We get him from time, but The Athletic.
Jonathan Tannenwald for
Jonathan
Philadelphia Inquirer. Yeah, there's other people out there.
These are all good guys. These are all good guys. But they're one guy at a beat reporter at one newspaper that's dying. The Athletic is like a subscription-based group of folks doing the coverage. Anyway, they went into Inter Miami's office and interviewed Phil Neville, and Phil Neville was just honest and talked to them. And Phil Neville talked about promotion and relegation. He talked about working with David Beckham. He talked about how ridiculous it was that there's no playoff. He was just being an honest human being, and The Athletic were reporting it.
He said it was ridiculous that they didn't know the playoff system.
Which we talked about last week, and we agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Which we also haven't talked about, by the way. We'll save that for next week.
Oh, the new system, right.
And then 2 days later, Inter Miami announced that The Athletic is banned from covering their club because they didn't like the coverage.
That's crazy.
It's crazy because Inter Miami is banning them. No. Don Garber and New York is banning them. They got a call from New York. Why would Inter Miami have a problem with that kind of stuff?
Wait, but that's your conspiracy.
No.
Don Garber decided this.
That's just baby talk. The major issue is this is the kind of journalism that we are denied. No one in this league speaks their mind. And we can't hear that as fans. It's part of the show. It's part of the story. I want to hear owners speak their mind. I want to hear coaches speak their mind. I want to hear players speak their mind. I can't handle all this state-run media, everything as well. I have nothing to say crap. And MLS...
And then the one time somebody says something, then you punish this was
then
crazy.
You ban them. In a free press
and also
society.
It's like you want to don't you want coverage of your?
It creates stories.
The whole thing is crazy.
It creates discourse. Like in England and in France and in Germany and in Spain and in Brazil and Argentina and Mexico, create this crazy news because they just say what's on their mind and it gets spread and then people get to talk about it. It's what's called discourse. It's part of the show. So my message to MLS is stop, kind of like back when they used to highlight, when they cut out bad calls from their highlights or bad ref stuff, or if they ignore, like when protests are happening, they give no coverage of that. Cover everything. Let the independent news media cover it independently and let it become discourse. Like just,
but this is even more. Like, I think this is in a different category even, because this is not just, obviously it's a little bit of a gray area. If it's your own product, you want to show it in the most favorable light. If you're banning journalists for interviewing somebody, that's just crazy. That's crazy. There's no gray area there. That's insane.
Shame on you, Inter Miami, and shame on you for MLS for letting that happen. If they're
terrible.
Let a journalist be journalists. All it was an honest to God interview. If I'm Phil Neville,
they didn't hold a gun to his head, right? By all accounts, forcing him to say these things.
If you read the article in parentheses, the Inter Miami media specialist who's there clarifies some of his comments or whatever. And it's like, shut up. He was crystal clear with this guy. Like, I heard everything he said.
It's like Phil Neville. He's a pro in England. He doesn't know how to talk to he needs managing.
Phil Neville is a Euro winner, maybe. He's an English legend. I mean, a Manchester United legend at least. An Everton legend too, I think. Right? He spent time in Everton. I don't just remember. But let him speak. And then if I'm the head coach, if I'm Phil Neville,
his dad's name.
What's up?
Neville. His dad's name Neville.
Oh, I didn't know that. Is that true?
Yeah, that is true.
N-squared, Neville.
Neville.
Well, but if I'm Phil Neville, I'm also pissed. I'm like, dude, I was being honest. How dare you ban a journalist from asking me questions in my opinion? All they did was broadcast my opinion. So fuck off, you know. That would be if I were Phil Neville. That's what I would say. So that's my rant, and to me, that's probably the most serious rant of the week. I didn't like that at all.
Me neither.
So I would love for I don't know. We need to as fans, we need to demand better. We need to stand by the athletic coverage. We need to support our independent journalists, and it's good for everybody, including MLS, including Inter Miami. You know what I mean? If it's part of the show, it's that Thiago Almeida stuff all over again. It's like if you're being like, everything is fine. No one's that stupid. We all get that that's what you're saying, and now we're suspect of your coverage. You know what I'm saying? Let everything come out.
Let's just let it all happen, and exactly.
You said it.
You said it. You said it well.
Let Christina let the call be wrong, and let them say it's wrong. Don't try to hide it. You know what I mean? It's part of the game. Okay, so that's my last thoughts. Anything else from you?
That's it. That was a lot of ranting about broadcasting soccer.
So real quick, for me, Apple TV Plus, I was a kid in a candy store. Thumbs up. Are you giving it a thumbs up or a thumbs down right now?
No, I give it a huge thumbs up all around. I was disappointed with the whip around that doesn't whip around.
Well,
the whip around's got to whip around.
Whip around's got to whip around. Hey, there was a goal at NYCFC. Let's check in on Glenn Crooks. Thank you. There was a goal at NYCFC. Blah blah. That's how it's done, MLS.
That's how. Yeah, exactly.
That's how it's done. All right. This was MLS. Welcome to Fan Party. Like, subscribe, tell your friends. We got shirts. We got shirts. Shits, boys. See you guys next week.
Bye.